either live by the gun or you die by the sword.
Welcome to The Good, the Bad, and the Weird. I'm Nico.
And I'm Chris.
Chris, what are we talking about today?
Was that supposed to be a Transylvanian accent?
No, it wasn't.
Oh. Well, that sounds like the rest of the movie, too.
Yeah. We're not talking about the scrape and lick vampire.
And no, not today. We're talking about my personal favorite vampire movie of all time, Van Helsing.
Van Helsing.
I love this movie. I have always loved this movie. It is a bad movie.
I love Hugh Jackman.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love Hugh Jackman and Kate Beckinsale.
I also like Kate
Yeah,
it's Kate Beckinsale.
It's the only reason I watched this movie.
I think that's the reason a lot of people put up with this movie, to be fair. Which is too bad, because this movie had potential to be a lot. And it missed too hard its first round and was never given a second go.
Yeah. It falls under your love of shitty dark and gritty adaptations that will never have a sequel,
yes,
but are set up to have a sequel.
Yes. This is my pinnacle movie of why doesn't this have a sequel? I understand, why. I recently learned that there is a group of people, and I don't remember exactly what they're called, but there is a category of humans on this earth, Nico, who are very good at picking a bad product.
Mm-hmm.
They will always pick the product that fails. I don't know, pickle-flavored Oreos.
Mm.
I would buy pickle-flavored Oreos and be like, why wasn't there more? And, no one else will. I'm that person. I am that consumer.
I mean, I love pickles, but pickled Oreos or pickle-flavored Oreos?
Yes.
Ugh.
Yeah. No, that's me, and thus this movie, but that's okay.
Yeah. So, before we get into the movie, what drink are we having?
Well, we're too much of a pansy to just chug absinthe from the bottle like they do in the film.
I have it, but I don't recommend doing it.
Nope, don't do that. So we're drinking our version of holy water as much as we can get a hold of in this times of trouble. So water with some salt.
Yes.
Electrolytes.
Cheers.
Tastes like pool water.
Yeah, a little bit. So, Van Helsing.
Van fucking Helsing.
Do we want to talk about...
I think we should probably go... I think this one is one that we should go through the plot a little bit to explain all of the quirks that is Van Helsing.
Because this movie it's based off Dracula, but it mixes in werewolves and a bunch of other little things here and there. Jekyll and Hyde.
Yeah, so this movie was originally, its concept was inspired by the 30s and 40s monster films that Universal created. And then on top of that, Bram Stoker's Dracula novel. So movies in particular that the director has said that he kind of was thinking about in the background was things like Frankenstein meets the Wolfman, House of Frankenstein, House of Dracula. I have somehow not seen these movies, and I now need to.
Yeah, they're very classic ones, and I'm trying to get to them because I love horror films, and you love horror films too, but we haven't seen these super classic movies.
I'm fairly well versed in the 70s and 60s horror classic films, which I think is what most people think of as classic horrors. But I'm missing a whole bunch of the stuff from the 30s and 40s, which, granted, nowadays probably not as spooky.
Oh, no.
But...
No, I recently watched the original Invisible Man.
Yes, I am borrowing it so that I can...
Yes.
I can also watch it.
I'm excited for you to watch it because it's kind of campy and cheesy.
Oh, my favorite.
But it's actually a good movie.
See, okay. I think that's where I've heard of all three of these movies referenced multiple times, not for just this movie, but for a lot of monster movies in general. And so I am looking forward to watching the original ones. But part of the reason I didn't get to them was I spent almost my entire week of research on this movie attempting to get a hold of the prequel.
Oh, right. There's the animated prequel. Because, there's the two spin-offs. There's two prequels, kind of. There's that animated one, and then there's Dark Horse did a comic that's in between the end of the first one and him end of him killing Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde and going to Rome that involves Dr. Moreau.
Yes. And while I looked everywhere, and granted, I could have ordered on Amazon the DVD of the animated for $2.
Ooh.
Which, I mean, I buy a lot of stuff on Amazon, and if I see something for $2, I usually immediately assume it's garbage. So, also Amazon, normally I rent things online. It's my preferred way to watch a stupid thing. You can't rent, they'll sell it to you on DVD. They refuse to upload it to their own database. Well,
I found it at a game exchange.
Really?
And I didn't pick it up. I was going to pick it up the next time I was there, and it wasn't there next time.
See, we called Game Exchange, and unfortunately my other movie store is closed at the moment, but we called Game Exchange just to see if they had it, so that way once all this blew over, I could go get it, because I love this movie, and I would be thrilled to own the Little Scene prequel. And the guy on the other end of the phone goes, "The what?" and he goes, "Well, do you want it on Blu-ray or DVD, or we have a couple VHSs in the back?" And we go, "If you can find it, you let me know." And he comes back and he's just like, no, this movie is... So, while I did not get to watch it, I have read multiple reviews and in-depth receptions of it, which I'm glad I did, and I now really want to play the video game for the PS2. I think it was PS2.
Yeah, I forgot that there's a video game for this too.
Which Hugh Jackman also voiced. By the way, he voiced his own character in the animated movie.
Yeah.
And we're starting there because this is all background knowledge that you almost needed to watch the movie, and yet no one has. So he voiced his character in the PS2 game, and apparently the PS2 and Xbox game actually provide background and lore to the movie, which you need to understand the movie, which for years I did not know about.
It's like the whole Kingdom Hearts bullshit.
It is, yes.
Which my brother recently got the entire Kingdom Hearts collection for $30 on the PlayStation sale.
Damn.
So yeah, he's playing through that, and he was asking like, which one do I play, or do I play them in order? I'm like,
good luck,
I have no clue how to recommend how to play these games, and I guess this
is similar.
This universe is kind of like that.
This is similar. I know a ton of people saw the original Van Helsing. Our friend group, quite a lot of us also really like this movie, and we've all had the same questions. Apparently those questions are all answered in the PS2 and Xbox video game, and the prequel film called London Assignment. Apparently the comic book doesn't add a whole lot, but it looks like it's drawn really cool, so like it'd be a fun piece to own.
Yeah, I mean, it's Dark Horse. They generally do a pretty good job.
Yeah, again, couldn't find it anywhere.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But yeah, you need all of this information to appreciate the entirety and the subtleness of the plot, which I think is part of the reason why this film did terribly. Which
will be interesting because I did not do any research on any of the other stuff. Instead, I decided to focus a little bit on the Strigoi, or Strigoi.
Strigoi?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, the actual Transylvanian vampires.
Yes, which there is some tie-in from this movie to original works.
Mm-hmm.
Not a lot, but enough.
Yeah.
Enough. So where do you even start with Van Helsing, I guess?
I kind of want to talk a little bit about what I learned about this movie.
Yes.
Stylistically, it's very similar in feel to the first two Mummy movies, which
yes.
I learned was the same writer and director.
Yeah.
So he was kind of helming this universal reboot of the monster movies.
Yeah.
And I think it honestly died with Van Helsing. And then I was looking up a little bit more. Dracula Untold was supposed to be the original reboot of the Dark Universe.
Yeah.
I didn't see it.
Yeah, I liked it. I could see how others don't like it.
And that one killed them trying to reboot the Dark Universe. And then same thing with Tom Cruise's reboot of The Mummy.
Yeah, but at the same time, I don't think Tom Cruise's Mummy was a total failure. You haven't seen it yet, right?
I haven't seen it yet, no.
Okay. I know you don't like things spoiled, but...
I've actually had a little bit of a change of heart, if I hear a spoiler, I'm not going to care as much anymore. I'm going to use it as something to like look for and actually
Okay. Because this isn't going...
observe.
This won't spoil the plot terribly to the worst mummy movie ever produced. And I am, in fact, including the Scorpion Kings. All of them.
Mm-hmm.
So Tom Cruise's movie is significant to the Helsing universe because originally the Helsing universe and the mummy worlds were going to come together. They had Helsing scheduled for for a sequel originally before it released in theaters.
Yeah.
And Tom Cruise was going to play the main role.
Oh, no, that was something...
And he was also going to produce it.
That was going to be the reboot Tom Cruise was going to be Van Helsing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they were going to tie the mummy world and the Helsing world together using Tom Cruise and then tying him into the mummy.
Mm-hmm.
He went on to play the mummy despite maybe for better judgment. And the weird part about it is the mummy movies, for the most part, have been very self-contained up until this last one, because they throw in an organization into the mummy world that handles supernatural fictional characters, and it's led by Dr. Jekyll.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah.
I knew about the organization and everything. I actually had listened to someone talking about reviewing the movie, but more from a storytelling standpoint.
Yeah. And I won't go more into their Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, because in my opinion, I don't think they're close enough of a character for these to bridge the gap. However, the fact that Tom Cruise even bothered to play in The Mummy, a role that...
They could have picked someone else with a big name.
They could have picked literally anybody else.
Yeah.
But I do think that there is some remnants of this movie still working its way through Universal's world.
Well...
I don't think they truly want to give up on the monster feature thing.
Okay, so they're giving up on an interconnected universe.
Which I think is probably for the best.
Yes, I completely agree too. I'm so tired of what I'll call the Marvel effect.
Yes.
Where Marvel created a universe where they made one good movie and hinted that, hey, we could do more if you wanted to. And people like, yeah, give us more. And everyone saw how great that did. Now everyone's like, oh, we have to have a universe.
Yes. Yeah, and I don't think a lot of other people's universes quite hold water like Marvel's does.
Well, and Marvel did it slowly rather than
very slowly.
Arguably DC, who just full on went into it. Same with Universal. Universal, before the movie even came out, they're like, this is going to be the start of our interconnected movie universe.
Yeah, which is part of the reason why literally right after they saw how poorly it did in the box office, they nicked the second one.
Mm-hmm.
But with that said, the amount of times Hugh Jackman put his name on the character Van Helsing when he did not need to was so much so he clearly has some faith in this movie.
Yeah.
And while it didn't do super hot in the box office, it does have a following.
Yeah, well, I mean...
fairly strong one. And I honestly think that it's reached a point in collective memory that if they chose to make a second one, people would go see it.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing, too, with Kate Beckinsale, which I did not connect her and her role in Underworld together, because it's been a long time since I've seen Underworld.
Fair.
But they were worried that she wouldn't want to do it because it would be too similar to a previous project she worked on. But she was all for doing the movie.
She was super into it, which is good because this movie, it has a lot of little bits to it that a sequel would improve. Yeah,
like how we talked about in the other one, Dr. Jekyll is heading up an organization. Yeah. In this one, Van Helsing is part of some larger organization.
They're called the Order.
Yes, which I like something they put there too, because when I was watching it, before I watched it with the director's commentary, which is where, director and I think two of the producers, director and editor and producer. So they're my main sources for a lot of my information for this movie. There's a part where someone runs into, I think it's the priest he's with, bumps into machine and something explodes.
Yes. Yeah.
And someone in the back says, "For the love of Allah."
Yes, a hilarious little nod.
And I thought it was a little, I'm like, they're in a Catholic church? Okay.
It does read weird when you're watching the movie.
But the director said that he wanted this organization to be all-encompassing. It wasn't just one religion. It represented every single person.
Yeah. And unfortunately, part of the reason why this movie, I think, didn't get the critical review gold star sticker is because all of your questions are answered in this movie. They're just answered very, very minutely. Mm-hmm. So, if you go through and watch with intent the background images of them going through the order and stuff, you can see that most major religions are represented through the people down there. Yeah. And then, on top of that, the fact that you're only seeing people creating things alludes to the fact that all the hunters are just out there. Yeah. But they're all not working just to get Van Helsing guns. Let's be real. They don't need that many people making a machine gun for one dude. Yeah. He's not doing that good a job.
And I told you when I bought the movie and rewatched it for the first time, that I compared this to the 1800s James Bond. Yeah. Because Van Helsing is just off the cuff.
Just a little bit.
Or hunter. He's a good hunter, but they don't agree with his methods. He's got a little follower that's kind of like Q, who does all his gadgets. And in this adventure, Van Helsing forces him to come with him.
Yes. Which I think is the best possible option.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, this is... The world is set up for you. But why would anyone watch with that much intent a quote-unquote action fantasy horror film?
I don't even classify this as horror. It's action fantasy.
It is. Yeah. But yeah, and one of the things that I ran into when I was reading some backstory from the video game was, so the order is called the Holy Order. Okay. And there's only 2 rules of the order according to the video game, as far as I know. Again, haven't gotten my hands on it. Little hard to get a hold of. But there's only 2 rules, and they sound like Fight Club fucking rules. Rule 1, the order does not exist. So we don't talk about Fight Club. Rule 2, you must live a life of celibacy. Them's your rules.
Well, that's an interesting rule, because the monk is the only one who gets laid in the movie. Yeah. Or no, friar. He's not a monk, he's a friar, and that's why he can sleep with women.
I also don't think that he's a hunter, which I think the rules were originally meant for the hunters, because I think everyone working underground never really supposed to leave, in general.
So their chances of getting some is never going to happen.
Yeah, 0.
Yeah. So, let's backtrack a little bit.
Yeah.
So the movie starts off in black and white, which is the first nod to the fact that this is a reboot and a reimagining of all these events.
And on top of that, it starts off with a very corny scene of an old-timey castle, lightning, thunder, but not very good lightning or thunder.
The villagers are coming to take Dr. Frankenstein down.
With literal pitchforks. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, another interesting little bit, the director said he wanted to use the old 1932 logo. Ooh. But he said every time they showed it, it just felt weird and didn't fit. Because I know you haven't seen the logo yet.
I have not.
It's a globe and there's a plane flying around it. It's, you know which one I'm talking about.
This one. Yeah, no, it's way too fucking happy to be on the front of this movie.
And it's just too old for a logo. It's not recognizable.
No, it if you know what it's from, you can make the connection. Yeah. Because the logo hasn't evolved quite that far. No. But the other thing I think that also would make it weird, at least for me, is I do recognize this logo, but I recognize it from old movies that I've seen, but all of those old movies are not the monster movies. Yeah. I recognize it from old, mostly romance movies, which would be a weird twinge to have that emotional connection.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, I could see how that would be weird.
So, and so we're introduced to, we actually don't see Van Helsing for quite a bit in the movie.
This is true.
And they did some reordering of how it was written in the script. Because originally, it opens the exact same way it's written. Villagers storm the castle. We learn that Frankenstein and Dracula are working in cahoots.
To defy God.
To bring life from dead flesh. And
we also get our first little hint at background information. We know Dracula is dead. He admits so. But he also hints that he's not just dead, he was murdered.
Yeah.
Which is I know, it's one of those things that if you watch this movie an absolute unnecessary amount of times, like I have, you start picking up on. But again, it's a subtle thing that I think a lot of people don't. Why would you catch that the first time?
Yeah, we learn Igor's tired of Dr. Frankenstein's shit. He's a good guy, but Dracula actually pays him.
Yes.
And so we have that little twist. The villagers still Dracula kills Dr. Frankenstein, but the creature escapes.
Yep.
The villagers go burn down the windmill. Very traditional.
Very traditional, very old school.
And then we cut to our first appearance of Van Helsing.
Yes.
Originally, they were going to cut to meeting the descendants of the vampire hunters in Transylvania.
Oh.
That's how they were originally going to do it, but they thought it would be too long of a time between actually meeting Van Helsing.
That would be
and then those characters. Yeah.
Yeah, I see it.
I am glad they changed the pacing of it just because we're introduced to Van Helsing and we learn who he is.
Yeah, and also the visual and musical transition from the old style into the more modern-esque style, not only with the shift in color and tone, but the movie gets a little crisper. The music transition right there is totally memorable. One of my favorites. You play that in my mind forever. That transition is so well done. It would be weird to put it off a lot longer.
The Van Helsing theme is great.
Oh, yeah, the music in this
is the best score of the entire movie.
It's fantastic.
But yeah, so we're transitioned to Paris.
We are.
The 1800s. We see the Eiffel Tower is being built. It's not completed yet.
And as a bunch of architectural nerds, we did look this up as we were watching it. They do have this accurate. The the year that they give does line up with when the Eiffel Tower would have been being built.
Yeah, I think we agreed that it was a little bit off.
Just a hair, just a teeny tiny amount, but that was based off of our estimates on how far along the construction would have been.
Yeah, based off the weather and all that stuff.
But, for a standard person watching, it's, historically close enough.
Yeah.
Better than a lot.
So, we find out that Van Helsing's a hunter.
Yes.
He is hunting Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Yes. Well, we learned he was supposed to be just hunting Mr. Hyde.
Yeah, he was supposed to be bringing him into custody to
face trial for his aggressions or some nonsense.
And try and exorcise him from Dr. Jekyll.
Yeah. I don't know how that'd go.
Guess who? I learned, guess who plays Mr. Hyde, or voices Mr. Hyde?
I don't know. I feel like I knew this, though.
You're a wizard, Christine.
Oh, really?
Yes, it's Hagrid.
Oh, fantastic.
It's Robbie Coltrane.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I like it.
I do, too. He does a good job.
Yeah,
I actually really like how they portrayed the two, like the metamorphosis that goes between the two.
The metamorphosis throughout this whole movie really is some of the best, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, I also really liked their version, and there's always a different version of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and almost none of them are like the book whatsoever. But
I'm gonna tell you, I have never actually read.
The
only classic story of these that I've actually read is Dracula.
Fair. I understand.
Yeah.
I think they were kind of banking on a lot of people having only read Dracula.
Mm-hmm.
But that's okay, because honestly, at this point, this is what this creature and character has become. But I really liked that their version of Mr. Hyde, he was superhuman, he was super strong, he was weird, he was rough, he was gross, but he wasn't dumb.
Yeah.
Like, he was still clearly the same level of intelligence as Dr. Jekyll was. And I liked him because he felt more rounded as opposed to a one-sided, the evil version of person.
Yeah.
Even though we only see him for a short while and then he is promptly killed.
Yeah.
But that's okay. We also learn, this is the first part too, where if you had seen the London assignment, you would have had more background to appreciate this movie with.
Yeah, because the London assignment is his initial mission to get hunt them.
Yeah, and so when Mr. Hyde and Van Helsing are talking about how he just missed him in London, and he's like, "No, you hit me," and shows off his arm. That's all shown and explained in the animated film, but we don't get to see that because it's in a different movie for some reason.
I mean, I get it. It took place after the fact. I can see them trying to milk as much money as they can out of the movie.
Same, but I also have learned from researching and trying to learn about this movie as much as I can that we need to watch the London assignment because in it, the whole reason Dr. Jekyll is brought into this world at all is because the Queen Victoria herself and Dr. Jekyll are secretly in love. And of course, during this time period, as we know, she should be an older woman.
Yeah.
But that's not sexy. So Dr. Jekyll creates a potion to give her eternal youth and beauty. And so the Queen of England is metamorphosized into a young hot woman who eventually kisses Van Helsing, turns back into an old woman, slaps Van Helsing, apparently. All while he's attempting to catch Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So,
interesting. It's a plot.
It's a plot. I desperately need to see it now.
I'll get to it at some point.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, one thing going back and rewatching this, the director mentioned that, and this, I started rewatching it with this in mind too, is that he said they pulled heavy inspiration from German expressionism, like cinema during the Weimar period, like Nosferatu.
Yes.
That's why there's like the heavy shadow, like.
I also think you can see it too in their choice of like certain vampire scenes. Because for the most of the time we see, especially the queens, or brides, I guess is what they're called in this movie. For most of the time they're a very modernized version of the vampire, but occasionally we get a weirder, excuse you, computer. Occasionally we get a weirder facial arrangement, which lends itself a little bit more towards the Nosferatu, creepy, spooky.
Nosferatu?
I can't say it.
Nosferatu.
Yeah, sure, that one. Look, I'm having tortillas tonight for dinner.
I'm having macaroni and cheese, because it sounded good. But yeah, I don't know, it's kind of a weird setting for the movie. Because after this, we jump to, I'm trying to remember, does it go directly to him being harassed by the organization? Yeah, it does.
It jumps.
Okay.
It jumps directly to him.
Yeah, this is why they changed it. So we're introduced to the organization, which we've already talked about.
Yep.
But we're also given his next mission, which he's going to protect this woman.
Yes.
And so that's why they changed it too, is so that way, one, we got to know Van Helsing, and then we got to go see, okay, why we care about this person rather than just cutting to them hunting a werewolf in the woods and the brother falling off.
Yes.
We're now given the information beforehand that they're the last of their line.
Yes, and that they are required to kill Dracula.
And the reason they're going out to kill him is because if they don't, 9 generations of this family will never enter the gates of heaven. Which,
not gonna lie, what shitty ancestor do you have that's like, all right, everyone in my family, you're going to spend your entire lives attempting to kill the worst creature on planet Earth because I decided so.
Yes.
Good luck, have fun.
Yeah, I don't know
Yeah,
either.
yeah. But despite all that, it is a good fast action movie style introduction to two characters who relatively flat in story and background.
Yeah.
The brother and sister, they're pretty flat.
Yeah, I mean, they're not super interesting, and that's fine for side characters.
Yeah, no, they don't need to be more rounded. They're given just enough introduction that we know that they are theoretically capable fighters.
Mm-hmm.
Their trap for the werewolf does look like a smart one. They just got bullied by some stupid villagers.
They're all so stupid with that, too. He's fighting their werewolf on the cage, and they're shooting at him.
Oh, yeah, no, like...
while he's on the cage. They are morons.
Yeah, no, the villagers are very much those annoying side characters that are just animated themselves in video games.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of doing their own thing, in the way. Yeah, very much so.
It makes me think of Oblivion NPC character videos.
Yeah. Very similar.
But yeah, so one thing I want to talk about a little bit is the CGI of this movie.
Yes, it's impressive.
For the time, I would say. Some of it's aged bit, but...
it definitely has aged a bit. It's not aged as badly as some.
No.
But if I'm not mistaken, this is the first movie to use the software developed for Lord of the Rings after Lord of the Rings came out. So,
I didn't hear that. Well, maybe, because I know they used the mummy, because in the next scene, Van Helsing enters the village.
Yeah.
The villagers are...
Speaking of...
well, we have the whole travel scene, which...
oh, yeah.
I learned them running on the mountains was done in Canada, and it looks gorgeous.
I mean, good on you, Canada. And then fun fact about the little town where they first fight the three brides.
Mm-hmm.
That's a reoccurring set that Universal just has stashed in their back parking lot. It's called the Court of Miracles, and you can see it in a bunch of other films like Frankenstein, Dracula. I can't pronounce this other one.
Yeah, I mean, might as well. What was it? I think White Zombie used the remnants of the very first like Dracula and Frankenstein set.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's probably one that they came up with like maybe in the 50s or 60s then.
Yeah, I mean, the original movies that used it are much older, and it's the same set, but they've definitely medievalized it. Mm-hmm. I've seen some pictures, because you can still see it on the Universal tour.
Yeah.
If you ever get to go.
Well, it is on my bucket list right now because my brother went and he just sent me a bunch of pictures. Like,
oh, it's pretty cool.
There was one he sent me a picture of just like it looks like a town square or like kind of like Bentonville's town square a little bit, big courthouse. And I'm like, Back to the Future. He's like, you fucking nerd.
Yep. This is one of those.
Yeah. So Dracula meets the villagers. They don't like him. We don't trust outsiders here.
Yeah, this is the one part that's a little strange. I guess you can logic it out where they don't want outsiders to get hurt by the vampires, but... yeah.
Or they're just leery if it's one of Dracula's agents.
Sure, I guess I could see that too.
But
the useless villagers, I don't get.
Well, Romania in general, from my understanding, is very superstitious.
Okay.
They're very leery of outsiders.
Okay, I guess.
And especially like Transylvania, because Transylvania is more kind of backwoods area of Romania.
Okay.
Like it's not the super populous areas we think of.
The only thing I've ever seen about real life Transylvania is the one episode from Antonio Bourdain that he went there once with a friend who's a weird friend, and they went to the castle and had some weird food, and that's about all I've ever seen.
Yeah. I mean, it's a small area.
Fair.
So, I get that scene, why they don't like him, but immediately we're thrown into a very long...
it is a very long
fight scene with the vampires.
I will say, though, that while it is long... I like it because it does set some boundaries for the vampires, or at least for the brides. We learn that Dracula, as with most iterations of Dracula, is immune to a lot of these.
Yeah, he's a bit overpowered.
And normally that's a thing that I hate, but that's kind of what the character Dracula has become, is the OP vampire.
Yeah.
And so it works.
He kind of reminds me of the alphas in Supernatural.
Yeah.
Where, like, he's the origin of this creature.
Yeah. And so while the fight scene is long, I kind of appreciate its length because we learn about all of the weaknesses the brides have.
Mm-hmm.
And it would have been kind of awkward to continually add those weaknesses in throughout the movie as opposed to giving them all in one go.
Yeah. Well, the one thing that I think was weird about the fight scene was the fact that they're out there in cloudy weather. I mean, it's just...
Yeah. So somewhere in the lore, the rules to the vampires was laid out more. But again, since I haven't played the video games and I haven't gotten a hold of this movie, I don't know the exact...
Yeah, there's not a lot.
There's not a lot for me to confidently say, but I do know that the writers did think this through, like them being out during the daytime, but it's cloudy. I just don't know the exact rule that they came up with.
Yeah, because the only thing I can think of right now, because there's the argument, vampires couldn't go out at night because the moon's light is just the sun's light reflecting off of it.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a diffusion kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which...
I mean, easy to get sunburnt.
Yeah, which I listened to a whole podcast on why the moon isn't real today.
Oh, is that where they keep all the birds that spy on us?
I love that you added that to that level of the conspiracy.
I mean, that's why we all have to stay home, is so that they can reprogram the birds.
They have to get Birds 2.0 out there.
They do, and like this one's gonna have longer battery life.
Yeah.
More Wi-Fi.
It's been interesting in my apartment.
I'm sure.
So I agree. It is a good idea to show a lot of stuff, because we also learned that the daughter, the last remaining daughter, Kate Beckinsale's character.
Yes.
She's not only the only one. Dracula wants to make her a bride.
Yeah.
They've kind of been attacking this village to bring her into the fold.
Yeah, which is something that I guess isn't really necessary for the plot, but I like that this over-the-top cocky vampire is like, this family I've been fighting for so long, how hilarious would it be if the last one just gets turned into a vampire?
Well, I mean, that's just his evilness, is he's going to corrupt them.
Yeah.
Because, one, even if she kills him and everyone else goes to heaven, or she kills him, and everyone else goes to heaven, the last line isn't going to continue.
Yeah.
And we know what he's been doing for, 300 years with the other brides?
Yeah. Ugh, nasties.
Which, by the way, that was actually a big part of why, what's his name? I don't want to keep calling him just him. Stephen Summers.
Mm-hmm.
The reason he was trying to come up with something, and he had this thought. What would a man do with 3 gorgeous women for 400 years?
I mean, he liked the idea enough that he put that whole thing in the movie.
Yeah, which, honestly, it's a nice touch.
No,
because
it is.
That's my biggest thing, is when I go see a remake or I go see a adaptation of something, I don't want it to be the exact same, because, like, Ghost in the Shell, I appreciate it for bringing anime adaptations more to the forefront. Same with Battle Angel.
Oh, sure.
But I don't want to go see the same thing, because if I'm going to watch Ghost in the Shell, I just want to watch the original Ghost in the Shell.
Yeah, I feel that.
But that's the thing I like about Van Helsing, is it
definitely pulls from the original stuff, but like...
It makes it its own.
It definitely does. And everything that it adds on that wasn't from the original, you can logic your way through. Like, they're weird sack children. It's somewhere between like a bug and a bird sort of thing, which I guess is kind of what vampire is.
I mean, it's a born dead child.
Yeah. Hellspawn.
Yes. The other thing too, we learn Van Helsing kind of fucks this thing up.
Yeah, no, he's not as good as we originally believed him to be.
I mean, he's a good killer.
Oh, he is a good killer.
And that's what causes it.
Yeah.
My one question about his crossbow.
Yes.
How many bolts does that thing carry? Because not any time does he reload, but he is constantly streaming out bolts.
It has the same number of bolts as an old Western gun.
Yes.
Infinite.
But yeah. Anywho, so another thing to mention is, now that I know the movie's connected to The Mummy,
yes,
they use a lot of the same effects, and I appreciate what they did in this too, is they learned from the Mummy.
They did, and you can see it.
Specifically the second one, because they didn't want to go down the same route they did with The Rock as a Scorpion King.
But that's my favorite. But again, I pick the worst one.
I know you do.
Yeah.
But I appreciate that they're like, okay, we had this cool idea, it didn't work, so we're going to improve upon it. And so they did a hybrid of CGI and facial or actual filming makeup over.
Yeah, and it looks good.
Yeah, no.
I mean, the vampires, when they do the thing where they like split their jaw down really far and then split their jaw across again, I really liked that, mostly not just from like a visual, because it has aged a little.
That doesn't happen in this movie. That's Blade.
No, it does. When the queens when the brides are standing in the room with the one dead guy and holding a glass of wine, saying something about 35 years old, perfectly aged.
They just open their mouth really wide.
No. It splits.
Oh, I guess I didn't catch that.
It's okay. I've watched this movie like 400 times. But I appreciate that they went an extra mile to make them even more demon-esque than just being like, oh, pretty ladies with pointy teeth. Because they could have.
They are wearing some very revealing clothes.
None of these women are wearing any kind of bra whatsoever.
The director mentioned he's pretty sure they had to airbrush out a lot of scenes.
I would not doubt that.
Because he remembers the fabric being very sheer.
Yeah, I bet it was.
I mean, I'm not complaining. So.
I think part of the reason why a couple of people paid so closely attention to this movie when they first watched it was in hopes of seeing a nip.
Well, I mean, for us when it came out, we were what? This is 2000?
2004. Yeah.
Oh God, I mean, it was big when we were in high school, so I don't think I actually saw it till I was in high school. So yeah, that.
I mean, this is a good one, especially because
good middle school, high school movie.
It is, especially for like the kid who's too cool for the sexy vampire, because these vampires are still pretty sexy, with also being completely terrifying.
Oh yeah, and so we learn Van Helsing fucks it up by killing one of the brides. Yes. They flee off, and then he has a discussion with the townspeople. They're like, "Who are you?" The chick knows who he is, but he's like, "I'm here to help you." Blah blah blah.
Blah blah blah.
Then we cut to Van Helsing, or not Van Helsing, Dracula
in his first home, not sure. In a castle.
Yeah, in a castle.
And this is the part that I like, is the amount of detail. Because the thing that he's laying in is coffin-shaped. But it is not a coffin. But he's on ice like a dead body would be. I thought that was so weird, though. It was a little weird.
Well, for me, because... But
I like it from the analogy of... In this movie specifically... And this isn't, I don't think, standard vampire lore.
No.
But Dracula in this movie is supposed to be very tightly tied to hell itself. And the idea of hell being frozen.
Yeah, I really like that concept of hell.
And so the idea that Dracula has some power over the cold and frost, I like that. Because it does tie into the whole concept of, like, you keep a dead body on ice, he's frozen in ice.
Yeah.
But it's his own personal imprisonment. And on top of that, if you're going to be a creature who during their sleep is theoretically vulnerable to attack, why not encase yourself in a giant sheet of ice? Just block yourself in, give you a little more time to react if you're going to be attacked.
Because we know no one can get to his castle. They don't know how he gets... Well, he flies, but no one knows knows where it is or how to get to it.
Yeah.
For me, I love the effect. I love the imagery of it. I'm just not a fan of that part itself, just because...
It's a little dramatic.
It's a little dramatic, but... I mean, I still like the traditional idea that vampires, they sleep in their coffins, but they sleep in a coffin filled with the dirt of their homeland.
Yeah. And I also like that version of a vampire. I just think that this one, they were trying to break the vampire mold. And if they're already going to play off of, like... The entire end of the movie is based around everything being frozen and cold.
Yeah.
And in this ice castle, why not play it up a little more?
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, it's definitely breaking from traditional Dracula lore.
Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, but the other thing that I like about this is, yeah, we thought about where he sleeps, but then when this ends, they show that he has his bed, and then he has a group sex bed.
I mean,
off to the side.
That's actually somewhat accurate too, because I mean, kings and queens slept in different chambers.
Yeah. And no, there's a lot of detail in this movie. It's just, it's not very pronounced.
I just had a really weird thought. So, like, they have their own bed for their compilations.
For their group times.
They birth those things in giant sacks.
Yes.
That must be interesting to see.
Someone online suggested think bug.
So this isn't their true forms.
No. We've seen their true form.
Well, yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
But one thing, yeah.
No, I think the people form in this movie is a facade, for sure.
Yes.
Unlike all the other ones where the bat is a facade.
Yeah.
I think in this one, he is full-on demon.
Yeah. But there's another interesting part in this scene, too, is we learn that they can walk on walls and ceilings, which ties into the fact that they're bats, they sleep upside down.
It's also a fun effect.
The female costumes are not exactly supporting.
No. None of them are.
But an interesting thing, they only could like shoot like 2 or 3 minutes at a time, because the moment they got everyone up there, got everything situated, that's all the time they had before they had to get them down.
Yeah, it's a lot of being upside down.
But in the commentary, the guy who played Dracula, he loved shooting those scenes. Like, honestly, everyone loved shooting those movies. Like, the brides loved being on strings. They loved doing all this stuff. Like, everyone I've heard talk about this movie that was involved in it loved filming it.
And you can tell.
Yeah.
Like, Dracula's acting, the guy who played Dracula, his acting alone brings a lot to the character Dracula, because he really doesn't have a lot in this movie. Like, he doesn't have a ton of lines.
He's a good Dracula. He feels very classic.
He does. He feels very classic, but also he's definitely his own version of Dracula, which I like a lot. Yeah.
And so from here we cut back to India, or we cut back to him. Sorry.
We cut back to...
I'm sorry, I'm full of ramen and pickles still. I'm disgusting. We cut back to Van Helsing, and I can't remember her character name.
Anna.
Whatever.
They say it with a weird accent the whole movie.
Yeah. So they're there to shoot that stuff, or Van Helsing selling her his whole spiel, knocks her out. Originally written, he was gonna pull a
Karate Kid style punch.
Or I was thinking more of William Shatner in Star Trek, the deep kiss.
Watch out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
we can't have Hugh Jackman punching women.
Yeah, no, they they after they had backlash in that, and they're like, no, it's gonna be fine, and then they filmed it, and they're like, maybe he should knock her out.
I like the chloroform gas bullshit that he pulls out, because it feels like another Bond gadget.
Oh yes, no, that's the thing I love about it, is like, it is very much,
all of the gadgets in this are pretty damn cool.
Yeah,
and they're definitely all fake, but they're given enough believability that you're like, yeah, why not? Yeah, sure.
And so she wakes up. Fun fact about this scene and everything else about the movie, this was the first scene Kate Beckinsale filmed, and she didn't like her haircut. And she kept wanting it to be more straight. And then after those scenes, she liked what they did with it.
Yeah, it looks good.
Brother and sister are reunited. We find out that he's alive. He's going to be turning into a werewolf. This is arguably my second favorite werewolf transformation scene in film history.
See, this one's my favorite because it pulled from the original great ones, but without directly ripping from it.
Yeah. Well, so his thought was, instead of like An American Werewolf in London, which is my favorite one and many people's favorites.
It's fantastic.
Where he's like, it's bone breaking, the skin's tearing out, it's beyond his control. This one was more so he's uncomfortable in his skin.
The beast
and,
within.
Yes, exactly. Like his human skin is uncomfortable and it's itching and he's just tearing it off, which is great.
I also like that they show him defying gravity, climb up the wall to transform, because it ties him back to Dracula and him being under Dracula's control, since that's something that clearly Dracula is passing on to those he's creating. His brides can do it, and now his werewolves can also defy gravity a bit. Yeah.
And so they give chase. Van Helsing comes in, shoots away, and then there's
it's not your brother.
Well, he goes to the graveyard, and this is where I think some of the best filming is in the movie. Just imagery of him in silhouette.
It's a very classic scene.
He told the only direction he gave the costume designers was that he wanted it to be iconic in silhouette. Yes. And he gets a bunch of questions of whether it's Indiana Jones inspired, Clint Eastwood inspired, or one that I still need to see, Vampire Hunter D inspired.
Vampire Hunter D. Oh, so good.
I still need to watch it. I love Yoshitaka Amano's artwork.
You'll like that one.
Yeah, I need to get to that in Angel Egg still. But he says he has no clue. They just made something and it works.
It works. And honestly, I can see why people question if he was inspired by those things, but I can also see how this is his own idea. It just happens to be adjacent to those ideas.
Well, it's not even his idea, it's the costume.
Yeah, the costumers. Which, good on the costumers for adding extensions to Hugh Jackman's luscious hair for all of this movie.
Oh, if Steve Irwin encountered Hugh Jackman in the wilds.
Yep.
Gorgeous. Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent costume design for Van Helsing's character. I don't like Anna's costume at all throughout the whole movie, and neither did Kate. She complained that the corset that she was forced to wear was terribly uncomfortable, and by the end of the movie, she just wanted to burn it.
Oh, I don't blame her. Everyone I've heard who's worn corsets loves how it makes them look, but they hate how feeling it is.
And I think a lot of that has to do with these style period action movies, because none of these corsets are being worn or even shaped or created the way a traditional corset was. One of my secret side passions is historical garment making and dress and costuming. And so everyone from that community who makes their own corsets or is well versed in the historical ones are like, no, these things are terribly comfortable. They're you could do everything. Here's a long list of things why movie corsets are uncomfortable and don't work. And so if you're interested in those facts, I highly recommend, there's thousands of videos you can look up from people who do legitimately wear real corsets every day of their life. But yeah, very interesting that, because hers is very fake looking, and that's part of the reason why I hate her costume.
Yeah.
Is everyone else's costume in this movie, granted, none of it is period accurate whatsoever.
Oh,
with cares? Maybe the exception of our dear friar friend.
Yeah.
His is the only one that's almost close, but I think he's missing a couple ropes and knots.
Well, they wanted him to do the whole bowl cut too.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm not doing that bowl cut.
No, but the way they filmed him, you can't tell for most of the movie, and it's fine. You don't really notice. And everyone else's costume is unique enough that it fits them and it adds stuff to their character. Anna's costume is just sexy. Yeah. She's supposed to be this really fantastic badass fighter, and she has nowhere to put knives. She's nowhere to put a gun.
It's constricting her breathing.
Yeah.
It's that whole argument of actual practical female armor in movies and games compared to fan service.
Well, and old-timey women had giant-ass pockets to put things in.
Yeah.
Well, give the lady a pocket. She's wearing spandex the whole movie. Yeah, hers is the only costume I have issue with, because the vampires' costumes, they're stupid. They're not historically accurate whatsoever, but they work because they're sexy, they're see-through, they're ethereal to an extent. And when they transform, all of those flowing bits and layers morph into wings and talons and other fleshy bits.
I
so,
like, yeah.
Yeah, and so even Dracula's outfit manages to be over the top.
Yeah.
And very Dracula-esque. Anna's is the only costume I think that fell flat for me for this movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. It's whatever.
But don't worry, you don't have to look at her too much. You can just look at Hugh Jackman.
Yes, the stunning Aussie.
Yes.
One character I want to briefly mention that I love and was perfect casting.
Yep.
The Gravedigger.
Oh, how can you forget the Gravedigger in this movie? He's fantastic.
He is so creepy,
He is
and I
creepy.
love him.
And he's weird and creepy enough that plenty of people have theories and thoughts around him, none of which have been validated by any of the producers or writers that I can find.
Yeah.
He's just a quirky side character that gives this movie a little bit extra, and that's why he's great.
Oh, he's solid. And so we cut back to the castle, which we find out is Frankenstein's castle.
Yep, we've removed into Frankenstein's castle.
So they're trying to recreate the experiments.
Yep.
They're using werewolves to charge the machine.
Well, they originally tried Dear Old Dad. That's where he went.
Yeah.
And now we're going to try werewolves.
The werewolf son.
Yeah.
So what? And also, we find out that this castle is actually in proximity to the city or to the town. Dracula has two cows. Oh, I just realized what the lab is. The lab's also Dracula's fuck shack.
Yep, it sure is.
Because we find out that the reason he's conducting these experiments is to bring his dead children back to life.
Yes.
Or
his undead...
They're dead. They can't produce live offspring.
Yeah. And from an evil vampire mindset, I can see why. Because in his mind, I'm sure this is a lot faster and easier to attempt to do all of that and have instantly 500 plus kids as opposed to go around biting 500 people.
Yeah.
And also, like, convincing them to join you. Because he makes it sound like just biting in this world isn't good enough. There's extra steps.
You must come to the dark side.
Yeah, you have to, like, be coerced into it. And that takes time and effort. And he's a busy guy, got a lot of things on his schedule. This is faster.
Mm-hmm. And so while they're there trying to tackle Dracula and kill the werewolf too.
Yep, while we're at it.
They run the experiments and
it doesn't go great.
I mean, it goes fine. They create some babies. Some babies
weird,
come to life.
Weird green gloopy babies.
Dracula throws the women off the balcony and tells them to teach the children how to feed.
Just yeets them right off that balcony.
Yeah.
And granted, I hate these children baby things, but they are a good design for, for being what they are. The only thing I take issue with is the plopping noise that these things make when they are created and then when they die. There's a terrible noise.
Well, actually, I
mean, it works.
No,
Don't get me wrong, it works.
I think it's actually a great design because how you talked about how their human face is their facade.
Yeah.
They don't
have a facade.
Not yet because they're just born. They don't have the skills yet.
Yeah. I like their design because it's also implying that to have a facade, you had to be a human first. Mm-hmm. And since they never were, you just get weird devil spawn.
Yeah.
The thing I don't like is, especially the end where they get all weird and blobby and then Ghostbuster goo all over the place, there's a distinct noise that they make when they die that I do not like. Like little popcorns popping and scooshing all over. It's like it's like that Nicktoons show all over again. Did you watch this? Things got slimed with green.
Oh yeah,
Nickelodeon goop.
I vaguely remember it.
I don't think I really watched it because I wasn't into like live action kids shows as a kid.
Yeah.
But I distinctly remember the slime that they kept throwing on people. And this goop is real similar to that goop. Yeah,
because they had the slime awards, but I think that ended when I was living in Germany. So
I hope it's done. It was always a little
I think
weird.
they tried bringing it. I think it's still around. I don't follow cartoons anymore.
I don't follow Nickelodeon cartoons anymore.
Yeah. So yeah, it's we also get we're halfway through the movie and the protagonist and villain finally meet.
They do, and
we learn the plot thickens.
The plot thickens. Of course, if you played the video game, you'd already know the background to this plot.
I might actually pick up the game just because...
I've been told that it plays similar to other good games. It's just, in itself,
not a good
game. Maybe that means that it's playable.
Yeah.
That's all I want at this point out of a PS2 game.
Or a PS2 movie tie-in game.
Oh, yeah. Can I even play it?
Yes.
Good enough.
So we learned that his name is Gabriel Van Helsing.
Yes.
And, the other thing that we've kind of glossed over is in the temple, we find out, or in the Order's underground lair, we find out that Van Helsing was found wandering in the streets with a ring.
Got no memories.
And the seal of the letter from the father that went missing is that ring seal.
Yep. And are you ever going to get around to getting the story out of this game, or would you like me to tell you?
Go ahead. I've got a backlog of stuff right now. So. And
honestly, I don't know where you'd find this game.
I've seen it.
Okay.
I've seen it around.
Well, so quick backstory. So I've told you about how the video game tells you about the Knights of the Holy Order and their rules, and one of their rules being a life of celibacy. Well, back in ye old days, Dracula and Van Helsing were best friends and co-workers for the Order. This is pre-vampire Dracula, of course. And, well, Dracula fucks up, falls in love with a beautiful young lady.
Of course.
Order says, nay, nay, sir, and attempts to throw her out of the city. Bad decision, she accidentally dies. Not sure how. Couldn't find out. Dracula's real mad. Attempts to use black magic to bring lady friend back to life. Order says, yeah, that's also against the 2 rules that we have. We didn't tell you about that one, but don't do that. They send Van Helsing to kill his old friend and co-worker. Fight ensues, and Van Helsing does manage to murder his former friend. In his dying breath, Dracula asks the devil for eternal life. Devil says, yep, sure can do. Given eternal life, away he goes. And then the rest of it you can piece together from the movie. And then Van Helsing, in a fit of upsetness because he's killed his best friend, prays to God so that he can live his life pain-free. God says, no probs, and erases his memory, and also maybe turns him into the Archangel Gabriel. Whoops.
Sorry, I accidentally changed you into a junkless angel.
Yeah, that part's not really explained. Why he's still, immortal, because according to the video game, as far as I can tell, God just takes away his pain by taking away his memory.
And taking away his junk.
Well, see, that's the part that people are confused about, because we think he's named Gabriel pre-God bit.
Well, so yeah, because Dracula doesn't know that he's... Well, no, he knows.
Well, I'm sure they've run into each other before, but if, God keeps erasing your pain, you never remember.
Yeah.
Sort of situation, I think. I don't know why he's immortal. He just is.
Well, I mean, he's a junkless archangel now.
He's apparently a junkless archangel now, thanks to God taking away his memories.
Mm-hmm.
So, there you go. Should have played the game before you watched this movie.
God, I mean, I'm okay with tie-ins if it's like a cute little side story, like the Bleach tie-in movies.
Yeah.
Like,
no, they're useless but fun.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas this is this doesn't get answered in the movie at all. It's answered in a video game.
A weird, obscure video game that wasn't even well promoted at the time.
No. Or like comic books or like all this extra stuff. I know, because I even know like Silent Hill has comic books, but they're their own standalone thing. They're not...
I get the vague impression that someone told the video game designers that this movie's probably not going to do well. You go ahead and throw all the bits in there, because this isn't getting a sequel.
Or no, it probably was like the game designers are like, oh yeah, you know what? We're going to hop on the bandwagon. We're going to buy the rights to this game or this movie, and we're going to run with it.
Yeah, potentially.
Yeah.
It's hard to say. And again... Have I played this video game? No. I have pieced this story together over a week's worth of video and research vlog digging. So, is this accurate? Yeah. I've read 14 different blogs from people who have played this game. maybe.
Yeah.
I'll get around to this game eventually now that I know it exists.
So, another little thing about the lab, too, that I want to just mention real quick before we hold on.
Yep.
Dracula has minions.
He does have minions.
They're called Dwargi.
They are called Dwargi, and they are disgusting.
They're based off German trolls.
They are, and they have nasty little bitey mouths.
That is actually the one thing I forgot to research because I was doing research on the Strigoi.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like they're bitey mouths while troll-esque.
Mm-hmm.
From what I remember, not original to old-timey trolls, but effective.
Yeah.
Because I do remember old-timey trolls, there is something about their mouths being important. I think specifically their teeth.
I don't know. I don't see. That's the thing. I don't know a whole lot about like troll lore and legend.
Not gonna lie, a lot of my troll lore gets mixed together. They all kind of blend together.
Yeah.
So, where I'm getting the teeth thing could be from a different troll.
The only thing I can think of that involves the mouth is the golem, where you either write the name of God or the golem's name and put it in its mouth.
Somewhere deep in the recesses of my mind, there is a troll who finds its teeth on the ground, and some of them steal other creatures' teethies, or they put like bits of glass and stuff in their mouth for teethies.
Weird.
Feels German.
Yeah, I'm not gonna argue with you there. It sounds
feels German. Could be wrong. Could be thinking of a completely different troll
because they're being very.
I'm not gonna lie. Van Helsing's nasty troll creatures feel very ankle bitery.
Yeah.
They're coming for your kneecaps.
They're kind of like the Jawas in Star Wars.
That's what everyone keeps saying.
Yeah.
Every time we watch this with a new set of friends, they're like, oh, look, Jawas. Gross, creepy Jawas.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's...
Instead of searching for robot scraps, they're digging up corpses.
Yeah, actually, that is... Maybe they're distant relatives.
No, they're not digging up corpses.
Not right now, but I bet you they were at one point.
Probably. I mean, they might have been Frankensteins.
I mean, theoretically, you need very large people to create Frankenstein, because you can't just like elongate bits of a human to make a bigger human. That's not how people work. So they had to dig up a lot of people to find a bunch of 7-foot tall dudes to like morph together. That's a lot of graves back in the day.
It's a lot of meat.
That's a lot of bits.
Yes.
Yeah.
So now we actually move on to Frankenstein because we start seeing that the little hell spawn start dying off and popping like gushers.
Like nasty Nickelodeon commercials.
And so Dracula leaves them be, but they flee, and where they end up is they're
in the windmill.
Yeah, the windmill. And how they originally didn't have the gear in front of it. Mm-hmm. And they're like, well, we need something to really tie this into.
Make sure you know where we are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then they fall through, and we meet Frankenstein's creature.
Yes.
He is, I like his character.
I do too. You haven't read Frankenstein either, have you?
I've seen Young Frankenstein. Or should I say Young Frankenstein?
Frankenstein. Yeah, close enough, I guess. I like this Frankenstein adaptation because it feels... it's not, but it feels closer to the written Frankenstein's monster. He's not dumb. He's not a wandering idiot. He's a well-read, specifically in the Bible, man.
Yeah.
Who just wants to have a place in the world.
I just want to live!
Yeah. And so I like this version of Frankenstein's monster. Is he his own thing? Oh, yeah. But I like him. He fits in without ripping off any of the other rantedly useless Frankensteins.
Yeah. And
he's a good character.
Actually, now that I think about it, I have not seen probably any actual Frankenstein movie besides the Monster Squad. And that's even not... Yeah, it's not a true Frankenstein. Yeah, the only one I can really think of is this Spanish film called The Spirit of the Beehive.
I don't think I've seen that one.
It's an interesting one, but it's one that you would have to read up before watching it because the whole movie is an allegory about post-Spanish Civil War.
I'll get around to it later.
Yeah, it's like I watched it and I'm like, okay, it was interesting. I know there's a lot of symbolism. I don't get any of it.
Yeah.
It's a heavy symbolic movie. It's one of those movies where if you know the history and what it's referencing, it's worth a watch.
Gotcha. Okay.
But yeah, it's about a girl who goes to see Frankenstein that's being used as a propaganda film.
Oh.
And
gotcha.
believes she's become friends with him.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
But anywho, that's way off topic. Yeah, so we're back in the town. We're trying to figure out what's happening. The monk got laid.
And also divine enlightenment from a moving picture that he accidentally randomly finds.
Yeah, well, their original idea was it was supposed to be up on the ceiling.
Oh, that's too obvious.
And they just couldn't get it. They didn't like the idea of filming it. Like,
yeah, no. I like the moving picture. It's way cooler.
Well, no, it was supposed to move still.
Yeah, but like hiding on the wall as opposed to just being on the ceiling. I mean, granted, not a lot of people look at ceilings, but you'd still notice it.
Yeah.
Like, you gotta
look at ceilings.
I look at ceilings, damn it.
Yeah, just to look at ductwork and stuff.
I mean, I have to count those skylights.
So we find out that the whole reason the werewolves are even in this whole thing is because Dracula is afraid that one werewolf is going to overpower him because it's part of a prophecy that the werewolves are going to come and overthrow them.
Yep.
And so we also are on a run now because they're trying to get Frankenstein, who we learn is the key to bringing the nasty little undead gushers back to life.
Yeah. And I like this role of Frankenstein's monster because we needed the technology of Frankenstein's world to bring these stupid things back. But we didn't necessarily need the monster until he became the key to the machine.
Exactly.
And then he has a real role and purpose. And I don't know, he fits into the movie much better that way.
Yep. And in this, the brides, or one of the brides dies.
We lose another bride. We're whittling them down one by one. I don't feel bad.
I love this carriage chase scene after listening to them talk about it because the director, the scene where Hugh Jackman falls out of the carriage and falls towards the wheel.
Yeah.
After he did it, he gets up and the stunt crew is like, holy shit, we have never seen an actor do that scene or do something like that. And he's like, why has no actor done this? It's an extremely dangerous scene.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's amazing. I think they mentioned only one person got hurt in the making of this movie, and it was a stuntman who, I think it was Hugh Jackman's stuntman, who broke a leg in the original vampire scene when he's thrown against the wall.
Yeah. I think that's the only, like, real...
real major injury.
Real major injury. I think
one of the Dorgies is supposed to fall into the boiling pot.
Yeah, he misses.
Yeah. Oh, and some of the Dorgies got set on fire that weren't supposed to be on fire.
Whoops.
They just hushed.
But compared to other action movies,
yes,
doing real good. Low rates on this one.
Yeah, and so Anna's kidnapped.
Mm-hmm. We feel real bad about it.
They say, bring the monster or
we'll kill her, sort of.
Oh, also, where the brothers brought back in. Van Helsing kills the brother, but oh no, he's been bitten.
Yep. I mean, let's be real. We saw that coming from 20 miles away. But, I mean, it had to happen. So, it works.
And so,
off we go.
Off we go. So, the last little bit of this movie.
To Budapest, I think?
So, I think they mentioned it's in Prague. Like, they say they're in Prague, but it's by a famous bridge. And so in all the foreign adaptations, they call it Budapest.
Ah, okay.
Because everyone knows that bridge. If you tell them it's Prague, they're like, it's not Prague.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, that scene specifically, kudos to the chick playing the bride, because it was -2.
Ooh, so cold.
She was shivering, and the director's like, you know what? you're not supposed to have shoes on. You guys walk around barefoot.
You're dead. You can't feel the cold. Yeah,
and she was just shivering, shaking the whole time, just numb toes, numb hands. But she was a good sport about it.
She was.
And the director says he feels sorry because he doesn't think her feet ever showed up in that scene.
Oh, that's too bad. But honestly, like, with her acting, you would not know that it was that cold out. Mm-hmm. She did an awesome job.
Oh, yeah. And also... Frankenstein thinks he's being betrayed.
Yeah.
They put him in a grave to go to a masquerade to go save Anna.
Yeah. And honestly, this is the masquerade of every romantic emo girl's dream. This is what they all want, never get.
The church it was filmed in is beautiful. There was a lot of stuff they had to put in afterwards because they filmed there. They were not allowed to touch anything.
You don't say.
No. So the trapeze scene, of course, that's CGI.
Yeah. But
like the flame blower, there's
the weird contortionist person.
Oh yeah, like
the opera singer.
Well, that's the other thing too. They were talking about that area, filming that scene, and it was cold. I think they said it was like -10.
There's no heating in these sort of places.
Oh no.
You just get to wear more layers to go to church.
Yeah, it was just even colder inside. They said.
Yeah.
But yeah. Gorgeous, beautiful scene. Hugh Jackman botches or Van Helsing.
Van Helsing, not Hugh Jackman. Hugh Jackman was spotless in this film.
Yes.
Van Helsing, not so smart in this.
We learn he's not so great.
He's not so great.
Yeah, we also find that the whole masquerade is other vampires.
It's all vampires. They're all here for Anna.
We see it, and we learned this in Dracula dips her in front of a mirror, and the camera is at the perfect angle to see down the dress.
Yes, it is.
Oh, I love these historical movies that have the tight dresses, but they're low cut enough.
Yeah, they are. I also like this scene, though, because we are informed that all these things are vampires. We see a pretty wide variety of vampires, but it also adds to the idea that, this is a royalty of vampire hosting a ball for other royalty of vampire. Mm-hmm. This isn't like, oh, Dracula's the only vampire in the world sort of situation, which is nice in a world building sort of sense, because if there's just the one vampire and his, 3 wives, it's less of a threat than this is the worst of all the vampires, and we've got a lot of vampires.
Yeah, and that's the thing about this movie, too, is, like, this last half of the movie just crams so much into it.
Crams everything in here.
Like, I appreciate it, too, because they built up all this stuff. Like, the first hour and 20 minutes of the movie is just...
Honestly, it's a nicely paced film.
Yeah, exactly. Because at this ball, he gets Anna back, but... We find out that Igor, fun fact, also plays Benny in the Mummy movie.
Oh, I like Benny.
I do too. I like him in this one too. He plays.
This is a good Igor.
Yeah. He found Frankenstein, and so now they're gonna resurrect the dead Gusher babies.
Oh, all of them.
Yep. Yeah. And the friar gets to use his sunlight hand grenade.
Yeah, we knew it was gonna be important eventually.
Yeah. Just one of those little off things.
It was fun though, because it showed off his intelligence at the beginning of the movie, and the fact that we even kept that thought throughout the whole movie. It was a nice touch. Yeah. Not necessary, but fun.
And so we're heading right towards the final showdown between Werewolf Van Helsing and Dracula.
And honestly, this is one of my I don't want to say favorite monster fight, because that's not entirely true, but it's up there because first off, I love the werewolf transformations from this movie. So we get another really good werewolf transformation. We get 2, I think, from this fight scene. And
we also learned that Van Helsing has the cure.
He has an antidote, but it's only effective under the first full moon and before the last strike of 12.
Yeah.
So, conditional.
Or no, I think it's effective whenever. Because, you're right. Yeah, that's right. You've seen this movie
I
400
guarantee
times.
you this one.
Yeah.
Because I even had to look up, because a lot of people were complaining in the critics about how long it takes the clock to strike 12 during this fight scene. And a bunch of people who are much more clocky nerds than I am brought up a good point that older clocks, especially like town clocks, they could take almost a full minute to actually finish striking the 12 o'clock mark. So, yeah, it's a really long clock dinging time thing, but it's not completely inaccurate.
Yeah.
And we're not given strict rules. It's not like East Pacific time, 12 o'clock, midnight, on the dot sort of situation. It's...
Yeah, and honestly, this is one of my favorite, or not favorite, I really like this end of the fight scene, because it's not this long, super drawn-out battle. It's really quick. And it's a good balance between the two fighting. A lot of monster films has one clearly more powerful than the other. This one, they're pretty equally matched. Yeah. And I like the fluidity that Dracula shows in his transformations and his movements. All of the attacks feel real. And then on top of that, all of the injuries they get are actual injuries. Whereas a lot of monster films, someone gets a broken arm, it doesn't stop them at all. They just keep going about their day. This one, broken wing, too bad. No more flying for you. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I mean, it's
a really nicely done fight scene.
Yeah. No, I really like how, like, this movie ends really well, too, because...
Yeah, the only complaint I have about the ending of this movie is tiny bit corny, even by my standards. The howl scream transformation, not my favorite. There's other ones I think that are a little better. Yeah. It's not bad, it's just not the best howl scream. It's a little off for me.
Well, okay, so to catch up some of the stuff we glossed over, Anna Frankenstein's creature and the friar find the cure.
Yes.
They release Frankenstein's creature before they can complete the process. Yep. And the friar's also got word back from Rome that they're supposed to kill him, and he has a chance to drop him and let him die.
Yep.
In this fight, Anna gets knocked to the side, but she comes to administer the antidote. Yep. And Van Helsing kills her.
Yep. Which I'm okay with.
Yeah,
it's a good ending.
Yeah, see, that's the thing too, is there's not really much of a romance between them, where like normally you would see that in these kind of movies. Yeah. And I'm okay that there's not the romance.
Yeah, same.
I think the cheesy part for me that I don't like about the ending is, like, I really like her, that they're burning her and they're gonna move on. I don't like that they look up in the clouds and see their faces, face and the brother's face.
Tis corny. Tis corny.
I don't know. It's just a weird part to me, and arguably what is one of the better of these kind of movies, the gritty reboot movies.
Oh, definitely.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It ends like it's just. I agree where you said that, where you've been saying that there could be more to it.
Some things could be explained. There's definitely room for an additional story. It doesn't it's not required to enjoy this movie.
But there's mysteries that are left behind that
for sure.
They could have done an origin movie, which they covered in a game, which...
Yeah, and let's be real here. Even if they did another movie that is the origin movie, how many people actually played this video game and know the storyline? Yeah. Almost nobody. I had to dig really hard to find this stupid thing. It's not exactly common knowledge, especially among all of the people that I knew, especially in high school and still, who they really do like this movie. Yeah. And they like the concept, they like the characters. Maybe not Anna, but she's dead, so it doesn't matter. Yeah. So I think there's room for one. But, 'tis the way of Universal. Will we ever get one?
No.
No.
I mean, it's in the same vein as League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Yes.
They have a cult following.
They do.
Like, there are people who love the movie, but then it's also one of those movies where it wasn't critically successful, and so they're just not going to revisit it.
Yeah, which is too bad. I think this one is a good candidate for... I like that they originally thought of a comic book. I think they thought of it too quickly. Yeah. I think if someone came back with the comic book now, I think it would do really, really well.
Yeah.
Because this does have a good comic book vibe to it. It would translate nicely into a nice, dark, gritty comic book style. And there's enough there to keep you going.
Yeah.
But when they originally released the comic book, it was almost right on top of the movie. And at the time, I think it just missed entirely.
Yeah. And for me, like with this movie, knowing that that they were originally going to do a Van Helsing movie as the reboot for the Dark Universe, I think that would have been the better one to do if you were going to do a universe.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think we'll actually have another Van Helsing movie.
No, probably not.
I don't know.
At least not in the near future.
Yeah.
I think this one is a good candidate to have what happens to a lot of much older movies in the much farther future, where it does get revisited, it might get completely remade, brand new cast, the whole works, like we've been seeing happen. Like, example, the Mummy movie, where complete brand new revamp of the entire world. I think this is one of the ones that's probably somewhere on someone's list on their desk for that to happen eventually.
Yeah.
I'm not holding my breath.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm curious how they're going to redo these series, because I saw The Invisible Man. Best horror movie I've seen this year, but that's not saying much. Like, best new one.
Sure.
But, I mean, I'm okay. I like that they're adapting them, they're modernizing them, but they're still lacking. Like, they're a little bit too complicated without the payoff, you know?
Yeah.
Like, there's
too much there without having a necessary for it.
Yeah, it's just missing that little something that makes these classic movies classics.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Like, I mean, we had the reboot of The Grudge where they went more storytelling wise with the original Japanese storytelling method. Yeah. And it fell flat because it was too convoluted. Yeah. Because it was too much in your face that this is in the past, whereas like the original Ju-on, where the cop's desk, it pans back and you start to see that there's dust over it, and then you're like, oh, none of this is happening in order. Yeah,
I see what you mean.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm glad they're steering away from creating a universe. This movie, I would say, it was their best attempt at a reboot of a universe.
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah. I see what you mean.
Yeah, because the Mummy movies, the original two movies.
Yeah, let's focus to the original two.
They were great.
They were.
They were stylized. They were definitely a movie of their time. Yep. They're gritty in a different way.
They're sandy gritty.
Yeah, they're... I wouldn't say they're gritty. I'd say they're edgy.
They were edgy. They were also more period focused than a lot of other Universal's more recent or modern monster movies. Like, the attention to actual historical costuming methods, technology, that sort of stuff. So, yeah, I don't think gritty is the right word, because gritty usually implies that we've ignored the laws of time. Yeah. But I think what happened with the Mummy movie was it did well, and that was part of its problem. It did too well, and when something does well, you make more of it.
Yeah, and Van Helsing kind of... Well, that's the thing. So, Sonny, I think his name was? Summers. Yeah, Stephen Summers. He originally wasn't planning on making a high-end budget movie after The Mummy. He was going to make a low-end budget movie. Yeah. Or a lower budget than The Mummies. And then he had that idea, and he wrote Van Helsing. Yeah. Which... Yeah. I love this movie.
I do too.
This is actually one of those movies I would recommend.
Yes.
I mean, even if it's cheesy and stuff, like...
Oh, yeah.
You're going to get some enjoyment out of it. And it's not like one of those movies where you only recommend it to certain people. Or
no. This is a good anybody movie.
Yeah. I know most people you recommend it to won't like it too much.
But
or the friends who are film critical of stuff.
Oh, if you've got a friend who's very film critical, yeah, they'll have to suffer through it. On the other hand, though, this is a really good one, especially if you've got a friend who hasn't seen it before.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in my classics pile.
Yeah. I have a feeling in years from now when I'm having nephews and nieces over, this is a movie I'm going to show them.
Oh, for sure.
And I'll be that weird uncle who gets them into werewolves and vampires.
Yes.
So, yeah, as a standalone movie, I like it.
Yep.
I'm a little bit annoyed that it followed the Kingdom Hearts route.
Yeah.
And
but
branched the story all over the place.
But with that said, I have loved this movie since it came out in 2004.
Mm-hmm.
And up until last week, I did not know any of this background information or knowledge. I have lived this entire time not knowing anything and just living with questions.
Mm-hmm.
And part of the questions I had was what kept me coming back to rewatch this movie.
Seeing if you could see a little thing in the background that gave you more.
And honestly, while the movie does not lay out all of this stuff for you very nicely, I got pretty damn close with my, like, fan theory.
Yeah.
By watching this as much as I did. Like, the only thing I missed was knowing that Dracula had a lady friend that's why he was murdered.
Yeah.
I had gone with a more traditional Dracula. But I still had the rest of it in there from the movie.
Yeah.
You don't need it to love this movie.
No, you don't. I mean, it's nice knowing, and it gives you a little bit more information. But
and if you're not a couch detective, yeah, you know, now you don't have to play the game. Here you go.
Yep.
But if you are a couch detective like I am, this movie's a lot of fun to try and puzzle together because you can eventually get to it.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with that. It's one to watch. There's more to it.
Yep, and even if you've already seen it before, it's a good revisit.
Yeah.
It's a nice one to pop in, even if it's your version of a Halloween movie.
Yeah, have fun, have people over, drink Bloody Marys.
Yeah, have popcorn.
Yes.
It's a good one.
Yeah, so. Anywho, this has been The Good, the Bad, and the Weird.
Thanks for listening.
Peace.
Wash your fucking hands.